Think we're live. Welcome back to the Home Service Expert. I'm Tommy Mello, and today I always said Ryan Lucia, right?
It's wrong.
I knew I messed it up. What is it?
Actually, Lucia.
Lucia. Yeah. So Ryan is a fellow garage door guy, also heavily involved in marketing, SEO, B2B, management, leadership. Quick bio, he lives in Beaufort, Georgia. He's the founder of Aaron Overhead Doors from 2015 to present. Such and Such Media, the founder from 2019 to present. And he's also got a podcast, Torsion Talk. Ryan is the founder. I just went over that. Before getting into the trades to open Aaron Overhead Doors in Atlanta, he was a software executive. As an entrepreneur who started multiple businesses, including a marketing agency, Ryan decided he wanted to go into the blue-collar industry. He started his business with his wife and 2 children at the age of 36. He has since become a mentor, sales leader, marketer, and philanthropist. I'm excited to have you on. I went on to your podcast about a year ago.
Yeah.
And you recently had a huge garage door, kind of an amazing virtual, what would you call it? An event. And
we did a door dealer conference.
Door dealer conference. It was great. A lot of good people showed up. Why don't you just tell everybody, you got into software, you decided to go blue collar, you do marketing. Kind of tell us what you've been through the last 10, 15 years and what you're looking forward to doing here.
Yeah. So, first of all, I always like to tell the story about I dropped out of high school and no college education, just because you don't need that. Then I worked my way through the automotive industry, selling cars, finance, running a dealership. That ended up taking so much of my life that I ended up going through like a separation and divorce with my wife at the time. And so I got into the vendor space where I was selling to car dealers. And that led me into a software company called Contact at Once, where they were a startup. And they hired me as the first salesperson. I helped grow that team, the sales team, to 25 people. We sold about 6.5 years later for $65 million. A lot of those guys went to a company that got acquired by Carvana, which probably would have been the smart move. But I ended up starting a garage door company. And so the reason I started the garage door company is because way back when I owned a marketing agency, and one of my clients was Aaron Overhead Door in California. And he and I became good friends. And so when I was ready to make a move, he suggested we start an Aaron Overhead Door Atlanta. I flew out to California, trained for 4 days, 4.5 technically, came back here, launched the company, and here we are 5.5 years later. We got 13 employees, probably one of the fastest growing, most reputable companies in our area.
So 13 employees. What did yearly revenue look like last year? I mean, you don't have to tell me exactly, but
last year was a little down from projections, but yeah, I'd prefer not to share revenue numbers.
So let me ask you this. Recently, you said you kind of took a step back. You gave a little bit of reins over to maybe a general manager of sorts.
Yeah.
So
I honestly got to the point. I'm a builder. I love to build things. I can get them to a certain point and grow them really fast. But once I get to a certain point, that's not really my strength. So I've started a bunch of things and handed them off. And I was trying to hold on to Aaron Overhead Doors and kind of do something that was outside of my element. And it really started taking off. I mean, right now we're going to hit last year's revenue numbers probably by May or June at the rate we're going. Yeah.
That's huge. So you should be 200% up. Does that sound like what the goal is this year?
Yeah.
And if you were to tell somebody that's getting into business, you've had about 6 years of this industry. I love garage doors. That's my life. But what would you tell them about starting a home service business? Some things you might have done differently.
It doesn't scale like a software company. So if you're coming from software, don't try to scale it like a software company. Um, and I would say that from the very early stage, I would say start implementing and investing into employee and employee benefits and hire employees instead of subcontractors as quick as possible and invest into them so that because that's your greatest asset. Like you can buy doors from anywhere, um, you can get customers from anywhere, but the most difficult part of the home service industry, in my opinion, is finding great employees.
Yeah, I think that's a secret sauce. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he goes, Tommy, he actually builds pools. He does the digging. And I've known him for a long time. And he goes, I'm still running like he's in his 50s. And he goes, I just can't figure out where to get the guys. And I said, you know, I think that's the hardest thing in this business is where do you find great people? And what is your solution to that? Where have you been able to find great people who show up every day and work hard as if it's their own business?
Where do I find them?
Yeah.
So I use a network of a bunch of different things. So we've got, I use an app called Workable. Are you familiar with Workable?
Yeah.
So I love
Great.
Workable. Um, I actually believe you should spend a decent amount of money recruiting. I think so many people are so interested in spending all their money on advertising to customers, but they don't want to spend any money advertising to potential people who would hire them. So I think that it's important that you invest a little money into that process. Workable, I'll actually do things on Nextdoor. I'm a big fan of Nextdoor anyway. Facebook, and then we have like a little program where if an employee refers someone and they stay with us for 90 days, they get like a little bonus. So we get some people that way.
The referral program is great. I really think that that's like the talent pool. People don't understand how much difference a person that books a lot of phone calls versus not, or a dispatcher that honestly knows how to make customers feel good about maybe if you're running late or have to cancel to get somebody out there tomorrow. You mentioned possibly, I always mention to people that capacity planning is probably the hardest thing about home service. It's certain jobs we go to, we might have 3 overhauls versus maybe selling 3 new doors and being out of there rather quickly. And so capacity planning is very, very tricky because we've got you in Atlanta. I mean, traffic is crazy. Phoenix is bad too. But what are your thoughts on dispatching? Because this is something we talk about CSRs, we talk about technicians, we talk about door sales, but I never hear people talk about dispatching enough.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I'm probably going to be speaking on a lot here in the near future, and even doing like maybe some training on. But when it comes to like dispatching, for me, I think the number one key component is not to book too many people at like too many appointments. And then prioritizing. So like we've actually put, you got like a spring change is a priority 1. Sensor eyes are priority 3. Door out of tracks priority 1. So you kind of know, and then you have your hot like your priority 1 appointment windows and priority 2 appointment windows, and so you try to match them up accordingly. And then all the while you're trying to like do the best you can for your people. So we try to start them out as far away from the house and then bring them back in. So instead of starting in and going out and then having to drive home in traffic. So like we try to take all that in consideration, but our repair guys, our service professionals, we only give them 4 to 5 jobs a day. That's it, max. And we want them to take their time, build a relationship, and do a 32-point safety inspection, evaluate every part and component of the door, and got you. I'll put my mic up a little bit closer. I like to give them time to build rapport and understand the customer's needs and evaluate the entire door, all the parts and everything. So if that's happening, you can't do that 10 times a day. And so I want to slow down, do it right, make an impression, and build a relationship.
I tell people 3 jobs is more than enough, and they go, "How do you guys make money with 3 jobs?" And I say, "Well, a customer wants to talk a little bit about their Harley. If you love Harleys or you like bikes or you like older vehicles or 10 speeds, the garage door is the pastime. It has a lot of cool stuff in it. And I think it's important to really find out you're building a relationship. You know, you get invited to dinner. You get invited. It's crazy when I was in the garage of how many relationships you build.
Right.
And those are the gifts that keep giving. They're literally going to refer you. And my guys tell me all the time that they build relationships, and then they'll go tell their neighbors, and then they'll go recruit people for you. I mean, there's so much more to it than just fixing the garage door. And I don't know what it is.
You know, comes community involvement too. Like it like feeds into community involvement.
You know, what do you say about, and this has driven me crazy, and I know it probably drives you crazy, but there's a lot of people out there that aren't owners that are on these forums, garage door installers over North America, and a lot of these, and they always say that companies, you know, if you're charging more than $800 a door, or $200 for springs, or $400 for an opener, you're a ripoff. And they brag, and they really think whoever sells them bearing plates or drums is lying. Whoever sells bottom rubber is cheating. Whoever sells a strut on the bottom panel. And they brag about, I call it MacGyvering a unit. They make it work, but then they're back there. Ryan, I get a lot of calls about people that say, I've had this company out 3 times and I'm done with it. I don't care what it costs, just fix it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious your mentality on it, because there's these bottom feeders in every industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to call them that, but that's the facts. And the fact is I had 15 companies here last week, and I said, guys, you might think I charge a lot, but you're screwing over your people and your family. You think you're taking care of your customers, but you're shitting on your employees. You're shitting on your family. They're lucky if they make 50 grand for you. They don't have any incentives. They drive an old truck. They don't have good software. And you think you're doing the best thing. You know what? You can't afford yard signs. You can't afford billboards. You can't afford anything. You say that service time's expensive. And I mean, you know, this really gets me going, but what is your take on it?
I think there's 2 different mentalities, and I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but number one, you have a poverty mentality, right? And a poverty mentality is always, I need just enough. But they'll watch YouTube videos of people in nice cars and dream of having nice things and talk about, oh, that must be nice, because it's so out of reach for those people that they can't even comprehend. However, it's not out of reach if they just make a couple changes. I also I had a conversation recently with somebody where I feel like some people love to go home pounding their chest, feeling heroic, like they did something excellent by, you know, only changing one of the 2 springs and charging, you know, 30% of what everybody else does. And it makes them feel good when they're sitting at the table eating their steak or whatever that they worked for that day. And so that's a real case scenario, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, if that's what they want to do, fine, whatever. I'm not here to convince them to change their ways, just like they're not going to change my ways. I understand it's not probably good for the industry for us to undervalue ourselves, but the customer that wants them isn't the customer that's hiring me. So I'm going to focus on my customers. They can focus on theirs. And, you know, there will probably be a little bit of crossover, but hopefully not much.
You know, there was a thing back in the it's been a couple of decades now. It was called the Starbucks effect. And real estate went up. Every coffee house was making coffee plantation. Every other coffee house made way more money. What happened is diners started charging for coffee. It used to be for free back in the 80s and early 90s. The Starbucks came out and they enriched lives, and it took over an industry. Literally, the whole coffee industry did way better. Now it's not coming to pay $8. I got this place called Steak 44, Ryan. When you come out here, hopefully in November, I'll take you there. It's a beautiful steakhouse. If you do not have a reservation a week in advance, you can't get there. You're going to spend a few $100, but the experience is worth it. And I want to be the Steak 44 of the garage industry. I want the experience, the relationships, the brand new trucks, the beautiful wraps, the best parts, the best smiles in the industry. I think that's what I want our company to be like, not the McDonald's, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, next, please.
Right.
So it gets me going a little bit, because I want that for our industry.